All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar 2024 To-Dos for Meetings, our first webinar in our To-Do series. Thank you so much for being here today as we share what's trending for meetings in 2024. My name is Tara Spricker. I'm the marketing manager here at BrightSpot and your host for today's webinar. As I mentioned, we're doing a To-Do series, so don't miss out on our next webinars for trends in channel incentives and incentive travel. And we'll provide you those links in the chat. But now I'd like for Julie and Michelle to tell you guys a little bit about themselves. Go ahead.
Hi guys, my name is Julie Blank. I'm the Director of Strategic Accounts here at BrightSpot, and I am also President of Site Texas for 2024, and I'm excited to be here.
Hi everyone, I am Michelle Crosby, one of the account executives here at BrightSpot. I'm also a Site Texas mentor, as well as part of the Hyatt Resort Alliance Customer Advisory Board, and happy to see everybody here.
Thank you guys. We want to hear from you. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please submit them by clicking on that Q&A button on your Zoom bar. And Julie is going to begin with the first trend and to-do, bigger budgets. Take it away, Julie.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. So whenever the topic of budget comes up, and it comes up a lot lately, the conversation seems to focus on this Amex Global Business Travel Forecast and the recent projected increase in events budgets by 67% of the respondents to their survey. So 67% expecting bigger budgets this year, and 13% of those expecting significant increases in excess of 10%. So that's a lot of budget increases. Also this year, the meetings industry forecast showed us that the average price per attendee is expected to rise between 3.5% to up to 3.9% across all types of meetings and events. So while we are going to see budget increases, and that's a positive thing, higher meeting costs will, of course, offset at least a little bit of that extra budget. So I guess the real question becomes whether or not our particular budgets will increase to the level of inflation, which we can safely call even 20% these days. So I guess that answer is anyone's guess at this point. But I was listening to industry expert and ALHI president and CEO Michael Dominguez this week on a webinar, and he had a really, I thought, interesting take on budget increases. He said that in 2022 and 2023, many corporations said, we're having the meetings, no doubt about it. We're doing the face-to-face meetings, but there's no additional budget available. So planners operated those meetings with no additional money, and leadership was less than impressed with the outcome. So we just can't, we're not able to deliver the level of experience that our stakeholders are used to, much less do anything new and innovative and cool with the same budget. So it looks like leadership is starting to come around to the fact that they need more money to get even the old outcomes, much less new, more desirable outcomes. So the big to do here is to use this research to request more budget. So reach out to me via email or drop a note in the chat, and we'll be happy to share this research with you. And just one more tip is just make sure you're really setting crystal clear expectations with your stakeholders. Education is so important here so that your stakeholder isn't less than impressed with their next event. That's no good.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie. So if you're struggling with the fact that your budget hasn't been increased for the next program, maybe it's time to rethink invitees. An easy way a company can manage meeting costs and overall budgets is to rethink the invitation list. Perhaps more focus on which departments, geographies, team members need to hear the message, and maybe narrow down who will get invited to the meetings, help focus on the overall experience while maximizing your budget. By inviting only those who need to be there, the meeting will have more impact and save on overall added costs, hopefully reduce those added costs. For an example, recently one of our software clients decided to invite field salespeople to the sales kickoff and excluded their internal business development representatives who normally do prospecting and not really a lot of selling, in which turn that reduced the overall size and then thus provided a larger overall cost savings. So the to-do here is prepare for hard decisions on the invitee list.
Nice, thanks. The next trend is short-term bookings. So another Michael Dominguez nugget of wisdom. Lead times for inquiries coming into hotels today are exactly where they were at this time in 2019, which feels different to all of us because it feels so short-term right now, and it really is short-term right now. But in 2019, we started to see that a lot of our business was becoming short-term as well. But what really does feel more prominent these days is kind of this hamster wheel that all public companies are on. It seems like all leaders, we're all on this hamster wheel where we just don't have the bandwidth to focus on anything outside of quarter to quarter, day-to-day business. So clients will ask me about, future bookings. Should we be looking at 2026? And my answer is always the same, like, yes, we absolutely should be, because if we know one thing, we know that hotel rates aren't going down. But if we look now and we find space now, is your leadership ready to sign a hotel contract and cut a check for a deposit right now? And the answer is usually the same. It's usually, oh, I can't get them to sign a contract for Q3 or 4 of this year. So realistically, the to-do here is to be flexible and coach your stakeholders to have that same flexibility, because your first choice in property or even destination may be unavailable by the time you're ready to take action, sadly.
Yeah, I agree, Julie. I mean, if you're unable to sign a contract that far in advance for a larger meeting, perhaps more small meetings is really what you should start focusing on. With food and beverage, audiovisual, and labor costs, as well as hotel room costs on the rise and budgets continuing to increase, a recent North Star Meetings Group research article explained that planners expect a rise in small and medium-sized gatherings rather than large all-company meetings. I'd mentioned it kind of earlier before on how to reduce the size of your meetings and maybe invite those who only need to be there. So perhaps maybe more specialized meetings allow a company to segment messaging to reach the proper ears. Think more 2.5-day training initiatives, stakeholder meetings, key customer events. The smaller kind of sometimes is the better, depending on if you can get those short-term bookings to work in your favor. So the to-do here is gather small teams to drive key initiatives.
Totally agree, Michelle. And while we're flexing the way we handle our meetings and the way we book our meetings, we also need to think about flexing the format of our meetings, because we definitely know gone are the days when it was acceptable to talk at people for 6 to 8 hours from the stage. So, I mean, that was never actually a good idea, but it's taken us a long time and probably a pandemic for people to kind of catch on and start to make some changes. So we have a lot of information to share when we bring people together, because the time we do that is limited. General session seems like a logical place to do that. But we just have to switch things up. So we're going to challenge you to look at things differently this year in 2024. We've all talked about audience collaboration and increased brainstorming. Those are all definitely must-dos, but we also want to challenge you to think about something maybe just a little radical. And that is, what if we prioritized relationship building over content delivery? We know people crave time together more than ever, and typically a networking event at a meeting is a group lunch or a cocktail hour where we bring people together and hope that they kind of strike up conversations. But that passive approach just doesn't cut it anymore. So we really want to push ourselves to create more moments of connection within our events, create more white space in our agendas so that we have spontaneous idea sharing. Consider using technology more, maybe matchmaking solutions so we can set up brain dates or persona or topic-based networking lounges. There's so many ways that we can customize and personalize our meeting formats to keep things fresh. And that's really the to-do, is kind of accelerate right through that general session, expand, the more hands-on workshops, and elevate the relationship building piece, because that's what people will remember and that's what they'll be talking about when it's all over.
That is so true, Julie. I know that there are several new buzzwords out there in the industry, and they're Bleisure and ombre. So as you know, and maybe you don't know, millennials are the largest segment in the workplace. So they get a lot of executive attention. For any generation, the first business trip to a new city adds a lot of excitement. I remember my first business trip, and I was extremely excited to go to Hawaii for my first business trip, which was kind of maybe not everybody's first place to go, considering right out of college, but mine was extremely memorable. Ombre travel is a new term. Ombre is blending one color hue with another shade, usually with hair coloring. And so how does this relate to travel? This term is more about the blending of a meeting with an add-on time for leisure and exploration within the destination. Picking a destination that allows participants to the opportunity to experience local cuisine and culture beyond the meeting room that they may have not experienced before is really the next kind of thing in the industry. So the to-do here is pick meeting cities with ombre appeal so people can enjoy.
Awesome. I hadn't heard of ombre. That was new for me, but I think that it really is relevant. It makes me think about CITE because they're doing their conference in Turkey this year. And Turkey is a very unusual place to host a meeting, but they've done such a great job of drawing the Bleisure or the ombre travel out by offering crazy, incredible pre and post, like Cappadocia, so you can stay in a cave hotel or do hot air balloons. So I do think that there's definitely something to that still. But if you want to have a leisure friendly destination, definitely have to keep in mind that hotel space sells fast. I referenced it when we just talked about short-term bookings. Everything is changing so quick. So hotel space that's available today probably won't be available in 4 weeks. And if it is, the rate won't be the same. So, holding space has become kind of a thing of the past. Whoever has the money first wins. And it doesn't help that 70% of everything being built today in the hotel world is like limited services, kind of extended stay product. We're definitely still seeing the growth. There's just not enough new supply with the big ballrooms to host meeting space to really release all that compression that was built up and continues to build up with all-time record travel and group demand that continues to increase. So it's really great news for us and for our industry, but it does make it a little bit harder to do business because sometimes we're redoing business and rebooking when things become unavailable. So the to-do here, again, is to really just start looking when you're ready to sign.
Sorry, guys.
So you've gotten your hotel. So now you need to decide on sustainability. Sustainability has been and continues to be a passionate topic for meeting planners, CEOs, and millennial attendees. However, if sustainability increases costs or alters the banquet menu, many companies back off and don't invest. In a recent Travel Pulse article on travel trends for 2024 that I read a couple weeks ago, there was a focus on small personal actions. So, for example, encouraging your attendees to bring reusable water bottles, maybe reusable shopping totes for treasures gained on an excursion, donating centerpieces, or incorporating gift experiences with local businesses, creating a larger collective sustainability impact. And this reduces costs in the end and the overall carbon footprint of an event. So kind of a win-win on both segments. So the to-do here is go green without spending green. And then kind of hand in hand with sustainability, there's also wellness. You have to decide about wellness too. Wellness has become a priority with all travelers and is expected to be top of mind in 2024 and beyond. Wellness is primarily a lifestyle, but companies can support employees' personal wellness journeys by offering things like fun runs, sunrise yoga, fitness breaks, outdoor eating opportunities for breakfast or lunch, fresh juices, maybe smoothies during breaks, more farm-to-table buffet experiences or hands-on experiences, or maybe providing mocktails during cocktail events as well, as people are really looking to nurture their bodies and their minds while they're on a trip or during a program. One example, a recent client incorporated a come and go wellness lounge. This area included 15-minute treatments like lymphatic massage, mini facials, and a variety of different relaxation techniques that they could take back with them. It's a great way for participants to indulge in between meetings. Maybe it's a private sound room. Another example, relieve mental stress from work inboxes stacking up by maybe starting later in the day. Instead of starting at 8 a.m. with your general session, perhaps you start at 10 a.m., giving people an opportunity to take early morning calls or speak with their family members. Or perhaps adding longer breaks to catch up on email, phone messages, or tackling that small little quick project. This will avoid attendees multitasking in the keynote or the general session that perhaps you've paid big money for a big speaker to come in and you don't want them to miss out. So the to-do here include wellness to affirm lifestyle.
Nice. I want a mini facial. That sounds fun.
Yeah, and I want a mini massage too.
We rarely talk about health and wellness without Zoom fatigue coming up, because that was all the rage post-pandemic. And I think that, we can all agree that some Zoom meetings, if they're conducted well, can be cost effective, simple, environmental friendly, and really can be more efficient. We can get more people there. So there's a place for them. But I think we can also all agree that you won't feel like the buzz in the room, and there's no real, like, the speaker can't pause for dramatic effect. It just doesn't translate. You don't really, when somebody's talking, you don't feel that pull to like follow up with them after the meeting, kind of find them in the cocktail lounge and pick their brain. I think really just the dynamics are dulled, and we all know that reading body language is really limited to facial expressions, and we're all now like masked by the filters that are designed to make us look like we haven't been in Zoom calls all day. So the synergy is non-existent, as well as the spotty internet and the cameras and the dogs. And an hour is okay. 30 minutes is even better. But the to-do here is to prioritize the face-to-face events for those meetings that you really need to have impact, and you need people to walk away kind of energized and feeling good. And, finally, our last one here is that while over Zooming is bad, technology in general is still really good. Obviously, we have been witness, kind of our generation, to tech becoming a crucial pillar of any meeting and event strategy that we put together. And, we do see organizations prioritizing tech to automate and deliver engaging experience events for reporting and those kind of things. So we're all going to need to be really diligent about keeping up with event technology. I mentioned tech solutions earlier for matchmaking. There's companies like Jabberyak and Nunify and Subtle, and they have funny names. All these new tech companies seem to, but super powerful features. And honestly, we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg here. And AI, of course, is all the rage. But according to my friend Michael Dominguez again, Chat GPT is to AI what Bitcoin was to blockchain. So again, like just touching the tip of that proverbial iceberg. And he says it's not the conversational or generative AI that's going to come in and replace our jobs, but it very well could be the people who learn and know how to use them. So I think the to-do here is to keep pushing new technology and to push ourselves to keep up with technology. So really it's the future.
Yeah.
And I think that takes us to the end of our meetings and to-dos for 2024. Here's a list here. I think, as Chat GPT would say, in conclusion, we've got bigger budgets that may take us even further when we think about events and we reevaluate the attendee list, incorporate smaller events. And we also think to kind of flex the format by being more interactive and hopefully focusing on relationships a little bit more. We know that Bleisure destinations will be in high demand, so we need to act fast on those, but not too fast, because if we're not ready to sign a contract, we're going to let people down, because the first one with the money wins. And then finally, we're going to focus on health and wellness and avoid Zoom burnout, but we were not going to discount technology completely, because the future of our industry and our jobs may depend on our ability to integrate and stay relevant. So we're going to do all that while we're still working our day jobs and traveling and fighting work-life balance and wearing more hats than ever before. Because I think if the final thing we can all agree on is that these are crazy times, but we've all lived through the alternative to these crazy times. So we'll take this with a smile on our face.
Thank you, Julie.
You bet.
Thank you both so much. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Michelle, for your time with us today. Y'all did an amazing job and provided us with some great information. We're at our Q&A portion of our webinar, so please send us your questions. Let's see. And while we wait for those questions to come in, I want to point out that you can find more about this topic and others with some helpful resources such as our sales kickoff guide and the 2024 outlook and to-dos for meetings, incentive travel, and sales incentives blog. So those links will be provided to you in the chat so you can have those. Don't miss out on those. Nice. We have some time for questions. Let's see what came in. All right. What business meeting cities do you see with good ombre Bleisure appeal? That's a great question.
Oh, I love that question. That's a wonderful question. Julie, do you want to answer it first or do you want me to take a stab at it?
Go ahead.
So let's see here. If we're talking, let's see, was it just, did they ask her domestic or international or both? Because I think from
it doesn't say, it just
it
says
doesn't say
what business meeting cities.
Oh, business meeting cities have Bleisure appeal. Well,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, everybody always thinks about like Orlando or going over there, you know, off to the southeast or off the coast. But I personally absolutely love like Washington, D.C. with all of the rich history and all the monuments. You've also got, you know, Chicago with the Windy City and all the beautiful architecture and the different cruises that you can go up and down the river. You can certainly go into Nashville and outside of Nashville and in Memphis. You've got all the great music greats and all of the fantastic things that you can do in walkable areas and downtowns. Same with here in Texas. I mean, Austin, Live Music City, live music
city
capitals
capital
of the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fantastic, especially with its rich history as well. And then you've got some really wonderful places out in Colorado, I mean, and Arizona. So, you know, there's so much to really choose from and pick from a business meeting perspective. I also wouldn't discount, you know, your European destinations when it comes to business meetings, like London, you know, heading out there and doing some really great meetings in some of those properties right there in downtown.
I certainly wouldn't mind doing a business meeting or trip in London.
Right? No. I don't know if you had anything else to add to that, Julie, in terms of destinations for business meetings with Bleisure and ombre appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered most of them. I think people are still looking at those kind of two-tier cities,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Seattles or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I had somebody ask about Akron the other day, which seemed unusual to me,
Oh my gosh.
but it's
Yeah.
affordable. So, you know, there's some Kentucky, but I think you hit on the main ones. We hear Nashville, we hear Austin, San Antonio a lot, Orlando still.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, next question. What is your approach to evaluating the success of a corporate meeting after it has concluded?
I could take that one. So Bright Spot's perspective is we always recommend, you know, the satisfaction survey at the end, a lot of questions about learning and development. But I think talking about technology and the advancements in technology, I don't think you really have to wait till the end of a meeting or conclusion, however that was worded. I think, you know, with technology, we can do evaluations in the minute for each session as they go. We can request feedback. You know, we can change the dynamics or the content as we go to make sure that, you know, the feedback that we're getting is relevant and that people feel good about content. So I think there's so many ways to do that now. And then post-meeting, we always follow up with our clients too, obviously, to get their feedback. But I think we need to rethink the post-meeting survey a little bit.
Agreed.
That's a good one. I think we have time for one more question. Okay. How do you integrate sustainable practices into the planning and execution of corporate events? That's a good one.
Ooh,
Well, you're the sustainability girl.
I was gonna say, I love that question. Let's see. That's a great question. So for corporate meetings, I think the strategy of sustainability is not only to reduce waste, but the overall reduction of each person's carbon footprint at a program. So I would say maybe removal of printed materials, utilizing mobile attendee app for all of your speaker notes and sessions. Maybe it's an app where they can actually take notes in the app and then be able to forward that to themselves via email. I would say utilizing chef's suggested menus during the planning process, maximizing what's in season in that particular destination, already maybe ordering, going off of whatever the chef's already ordered for the week. So sometimes they have the chef's special menus at the different in different hotels and destinations. I would say, I mentioned it earlier in the webinar, back of the room water stations, encouraging guests to bring their favorite, refillable water containers, their Stanleys and their, Yetis, or maybe providing them one, if your company's now, wants additional branding opportunities, to give them a branded refillable water bottle. Reusing audiovisual setups. I can't even stress that enough. I mean, that not only reduces your technology pollution within a program and meeting, but helps with your budget overall, which is what we've been really talking about. And so if you have an evening dinner or an awards presentation or something that you're doing that requires audiovisual setup, reuse what already has been set up in your general session room. It's just such a smart idea. And then doing your reusable centerpieces during a program, donating them to a local senior center or children's, hospital. There's so many ways to integrate sustainable practices, but I think it's a win-win for budget reductions as well. So great question. Love that.
I think we'll see a lot more of that too, as there become more and more companies are focused on it.
Yeah.
And there are more and more resources now. There's online tools that can help you measure carbon offset. There's companies that will measure the carbon offset of the entire event. I was reading about people who were picking their destination based off their attendees' hometowns, and they put all this into an online tool that measures the air pollution based on the flights and how long their attendees would be there. So I think it's going to become, I think they're just going to keep drilling down. It's going to get more and more precise and greater.
Yeah, I agree. I love that.
Cool. We are pretty much at time. Those are all of our questions. So I just want to thank everyone again for being here today. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrace.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Terrace. Thanks, Julie.
Thanks.
Bye.
Michelle.